The Gatha Upanishad, Part 1. Vairvasa gave away all his possessions at a sacrifice, but it was out of a desire for heaven. He had a son called Naniketas, who, although he was only a boy, had a vision of faith when the offerings were given, and thus he thought, "This poor offerings of cows that are too old to give milk and too weak to eat grass or drink water must lead to a world of sorrow." And he thought of offering himself, and he said to his father, "Father, to whom will you give me?" He asked once and twice and 3 times, and his father answered in anger, "I will give you to death." Naniketas. At the head of many I go, and I go in the midst of many. What may be the work of death that today must be done through me? Remember how the men of old passed away, and how those of the days to come will pass away. A mortal ripens like corn, and like corn is born again. Naniketas had to wait 3 nights without food in the abode of Yama, the god of death. A voice. As the spirit of fire, a Brahman comes to a house. Bring the offering of water, O god of death. How unwise is the man who does not give hospitality to a Brahmin. He loses his future hopes, his past merits, his present possessions, his sons, and his all. Death. Since you have come as a sacred guest to my abode, and you have had no hospitality for 3 nights, choose then 3 boons. Naniketas. My father's anger be appeased. May my father's anger be appeased. And may he remember me and welcome me when I return to him. Let this be my first boon. Death. By my power your father will remember you and love you as before. And when he sees you free from the jaws of death, sweet will be his sleep at night. Naniketas. There is no fear in heaven. Old age and death are not there. The good, beyond both, rejoice in heaven, beyond hunger, thirst, and sorrow. And those in heaven attain immortality. You know, O death, that sacred fire which leads to heaven. Explain it to me, since I have faith. Be this my second boon. I know, Naniketas, that sacred fire which leads to heaven. Listen, that fire which is the means of attaining the infinite worlds, and also their foundation, is hidden in the sacred place of the heart. And death told him of the fire of creation, the beginning of the worlds, and of the altar of the sacrifice, and how many bricks it should be built, and how they should be placed. Naniketas repeated the teaching. Death was pleased and went on. A further boon I give to you today. This fire of sacrifice shall be known by your name. Take also from me this chain of many forms. One who lights 3 times the sacred fire and attains union with the 3 and performs the 3 holy actions passes beyond life and death. For then he knows the God of fire, the God who knows all things, and through knowledge and adoration he attains the peace supreme. He who, knowing the 3, builds up the altar of fire sacrifice and performs the 3 times the sacrifice of Naniketas, casts off the bonds of death, and passing beyond sorrow, finds joy in the regions of heaven. This is the fire that leads to heaven, which you choose as the second gift. Men will call it the fire sacrifice of Naniketas. Choose now the third boon. Naniketas. When a man dies, this doubt arises. Some say he is, and some say he is not. Teach me the truth, death. Even the gods had this doubt in times of old, for mysterious is the law of life and death. Ask for another boon. Release me from this. Naniketas. This doubt indeed arose even to the gods. And you say, O death, that is difficult to understand, but no greater teacher than you can explain it. And there is no other boon so great as this. Death. Take horses and gold and cattle and elephants. Choose sons and grandsons that shall live 100 years, have vast expanses of land, and live as many years as you desire. Or choose another gift that you think equal to this, and enjoy it with wealth and long life. Be a ruler of this vast earth. I will grant you all your desires. Ask for any wish in the world of mortals, however hard to obtain. To attend to you, I will give you fair maidens with chariots and musical instruments. But ask me not, Nanikethas, the secrets of death. Nanikethas, all these pleasures pass away. O end of all, they weaken the power of life. And indeed, how short is all life? Keep thy horses and dancing and singing. Men cannot be satisfied with wealth. Shall we enjoy wealth with you in sight? Shall we live whilst you are in power? I can only ask for the boon I have asked. When a mortal is here on earth has left his own immortality, could he wish for a long life of pleasure, for the lust of deceitful beauty? Solve then the doubt as to the great beyond. Grant me the gift that unveils the mystery. This is the only gift Naniketas can ask. Part 2. Death. There is the path of joy, and there is the path of pleasure. Both attract the soul. Who follows the first comes to good. Who follows pleasure reaches not the end. The paths that lie in front of man, two paths lie in front of man. Pondering on them, the wise man chooses the path of joy. The fool takes the path of pleasure. You have pondered, Naniketas, on pleasures, and you have rejected them. You have not accepted that chain of possessions wherein men bind themselves, and beneath which they sink. There is the path of wisdom and the path of ignorance. They are far apart and lead to different ends. You are, Naniketas, a follower of the path of wisdom. Many pleasures tempt you not. Abiding in the midst of ignorance, thinking themselves wise and learned, fools go aimlessly hither and thither, like blind led by the blind. What lies beyond life shines not to those who are childish, or careless, or deluded by wealth. This is the only world. There is no other, they say, and thus they go from death to death. Not many hear of him, and of those not many reach him. Wonderful is he who can teach about him, and wise is he who can be taught. Wonderful is he who knows him when taught. He cannot be taught by one who has not reached him, and he cannot be reached by much thinking. The way to him is through a teacher who has seen him. He is higher than the highest thoughts, in truth, above all thought. This sacred knowledge is not attained by reasoning, but it is given by a true teacher. As your purpose is steady, you have found him. May I find another pupil like you. I know the treasures pass away, and that the eternal is not reached by the transient. I have thus laid the fire of the sacrifice of Naniketas. and by burning in it the transient, I have reached the eternal. Before your eyes have been spread, Naniketas, the fulfillment of all desire, the dominion of the world, the eternal reward of ritual, the shore where there is no fear, the greatness of fame and boundless spaces. With strength and wisdom you have renounced them all. When the wise rests his mind in contemplation on God beyond time, whose invisibly dwells in the mystery of things and in the heart of man, then he rises above pleasures and sorrow. When a man has heard and has understood, and finding the essence, reaches the innermost, then he finds joy in the source of joy. Naniketas is a house open for thy Atman, thy God. Naniketas. Tell me what you see beyond right and wrong. Tell me what is done or not done, beyond past and future. Death. I will tell you the word that all the Vedas glorify, all sacrifice expresses, all sacred studies and holy life seek. That word is Om. That word is the everlasting Brahman. That word is the highest end. When the sacred word is known, all longings are fulfilled. It is the supreme means of salvation. It is the help supreme. When that great word is known, one is great in the heaven of Brahman. Atman, the spirit of vision, is never born and never dies. Before him there is nothing. He is one forevermore, never born and eternal, beyond times gone or to come. He does not die when the body dies. If the slayer thinks that he kills, and if the slain thinks that he dies, neither knows the ways of truth. The eternal in man cannot kill. The eternal in man cannot die. Concealed in the heart of all beings is the Atman, the spirit, the self, smaller than the smallest atom, greater than the vast spaces. The man who surrenders his human will leaves sorrows behind and beholds the glory of Atman by the grace of the Creator. Resting, he wanders afar. Sleeping, he goes everywhere. Who else but myself can know that God of joy and of sorrows? When the wise realize the omnipresent Spirit, who rests invisible in the visible and permanent in the impermanent, they go beyond sorrow. Not through much learning is the Atman reached, not through the intellect and sacred teaching. It is reached by the chosen of him, because they choose him. To his chosen, the Atman reveals his glory. Not even through deep knowledge can the Atman be reached, unless evil ways are abandoned, and there is rest in the senses, concentration in the mind, and peace in one's heart. Who knows in truth where he is? The majesty of his power carries away priests and warriors, and death itself is carried away. Part 3. In the secret high place of the heart there are two beings who drink the wine of life in the world of truth. Those who know Brahman, those who keep the 5 sacred fires, and those who light the threefold fire of Naniketas, call them light and shade. We may find the sacred fire of Naniketas, the bridge to cross to the other shore where there is no fear, the supreme, everlasting spirit. Know the Atman as Lord of a chariot, and the Lord of the chariot, and the body as the chariot itself. Know that reason is the charioteer, and the mind indeed is the reins. The horses, they say, are the senses, and their paths are the objects of sense. When the soul becomes one with the mind and the senses, he is called one who has joys and sorrows. He has not right understanding, and whose mind is never steady. He who has not right understanding, and whose mind is never steady, is not the ruler of his life, like a bad driver with wild horses. But he who has right understanding, and whose mind is ever steady, is the ruler of his life, like a good driver with well-trained horses. He who has not right understanding is careless and never pure, reaches not the end of the journey, but wanders on from death to death. But he who has understanding, is careful and ever pure, reaches the end of the journey, from which he never returns. The man whose chariot is driven by reason, who watches and holds the reins of his mind, reaches the end of the journey, the supreme everlasting spirit. Beyond the senses are their objects, and beyond the objects is the mind. Beyond the mind is pure reason, and beyond reason is the spirit in man. Beyond the spirit in man is the spirit of the universe, and beyond is Purusha, the spirit supreme. Nothing is beyond Purusha. He is the end of the path, the light of the Atman. The spirit is invisible, concealed in all beings. It is seen by the seers of the subtle, when their vision is keen and is clear. The wise should surrender speech in mind, mind in the knowing self, and the knowing self in the spirit of the universe, and the spirit of the universe in the spirit of peace. Awake, arise, strive for the highest, and be in the light. Sages say the path is narrow and difficult to thread, narrow as the edge of a razor. The Atman is beyond sound and form, without touch and taste and perfume. It is eternal, unchangeable, and without beginning or end. Indeed, above reasoning. When consciousness of the Atman manifests itself, man becomes free from the jaws of death. The wise who can learn and can teach this ancient story of Naniketas, thought by Yama, the god of death, finds glory in the world of Brahman. He who, filled with devotion, recites the supreme mystery at the gathering of Brahmins or at the ceremony of the Sraddha for the departed, prepares for eternity. He prepares in truth for eternity.